So we promised you transparency at this Department of Defense, and America, that is exactly what you're going to get because you deserve it. So at the DOD, we've been working hand in hand with the DOGE team. And as the secretary said, we welcome that process because that process will make us more lethal. And that means that our warfighters on the battlefield will be more successful. And that's what this process is all about. So in the interest of transparency, look at some of the initial things that we found in the Air Force. $1.9 million for holistic DEI transformation and training. $6 million to the University of Montana to strengthen American democracy by bridging divides. At the Defense Human Resources Activity, $3.5 million for support to DEI groups. And how about this one? $1.6 million to the University of Florida to study social and institutional detriments of vulnerability and resilience to climate hazards in African Sahel. You see, folks, this stuff is not a core function of our military. This is not what we do. This is a distraction from our core mission. So we believe that these initial findings will probably save $80 million in wasteful spending. Again, $80 million in wasteful spending just right here. So stay tuned. Today's actions are just the start. More to come this week. Again, we are working hand in glove with DOGE, so stay tuned in the weeks ahead as we trim the fat, preserve the muscle, make the DOD more mission capable and more lethal.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. So we got to talk about a story that the mainstream liberal media refuses to acknowledge because they swear up and down that DOGE is ineffective, that DOGE is unpopular, that DOGE isn't making any cuts. They aren't finding any waste, fraud, and abuse. It is all a scheme for Elon Musk to get rich and to just fire as many Americans as possible, right? This is what they claim, even though DOGE is finding real waste, fraud, and abuse that the mainstream liberal media outlets like CNN refuse to acknowledge.
Okay, his job approval is roughly 50%.
Okay,
Congressional Democrats,
his
21%.
Okay, he is underwater, and yes, he's more
according
popular.
to us, but not according to the averages.
He is more popular than Democrats, but if you're claiming that everything that he's doing is popular, it's actually very clear in the polling that specifically the DOGE stuff is not popular.
I don't think that's clear cut.
Specifically, the economy is not popular with all of the polling. The way that he's handling the economy is not popular either.
Handling Biden's economy.
Let's see what they find. Let's see what DOGE finds. First of all, the EPA administrator, Lee Zeldin, found $2 billion going for a not-for-profit agency that prior to that had $100 in revenue. Nobody had been trained to handle a budget, much less a budget of $2 billion. There's $2 billion right there that was going to a political slush fund.
And that is the reason why the liberal media refuses to tell the truth about DOGE and the fraud, waste, and abuse that is being uncovered is because ultimately a lot of this money is going to political slush funds, aka going to Democrats who benefit from the fact that the government is giving out all this money to these nonprofits that quite honestly aren't doing anything. Like, for example, we got to talk about this nonprofit out in Texas involving a former Biden transition member who reaped millions of dollars operating an empty facility. So this facility is supposed to be a migrant facility, aka an illegal immigrant facility, children specifically, and they're not really housing anybody, but yet they're receiving millions and millions and millions of dollars from the government. That only happened after a Joe Biden transition team member joined the nonprofit. Now, all of a sudden, the nonprofit is getting millions of dollars in contracts and they're not really doing anything. Again, it's stories like this that the mainstream liberal media refuses to acknowledge, but this is what DOGE is uncovering and saving taxpayer dollars on. But yet, again, the liberal media doesn't want to acknowledge that this exists. So without further ado, let's get into it.
The Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, recently touted the cancellation of a DHHS contract with a Texas nonprofit, Family Endeavors, that DOGE says will save $215 million annually. But when researching that contract between DHHS and the nonprofit, we found this government partnership has been making headlines for years. A former Biden official joined the Texas nonprofit months before it received hundreds of millions of dollars worth in government contracts, ballooning its budget. It led to congressional inquiries in 2021 that led to investigations, with the DHS Inspector General concluding in 2022 millions of dollars were wasted as a result of the government contracting endeavors, and found ICE gave a contract to the nonprofit despite the group having no related experience.
Wow.
While DOGE's recent announcement put a renewed spotlight over the nonprofit by nixing one of its government contracts, we went back through old reports that found the misuse of millions several years ago. First, here's what DOGE posted this week: photos showing empty facilities. A former ICE employee and Biden transition team member joined Family Endeavors in early 2021 and helped secure a sole source HHS contract for overflow housings from licensed care facilities. As a result, Family Endeavors' investment grew from $8.3 million in 2020 to $520 million in 2023.
And that is how the game works, folks. That is how the game works, okay? We've seen this time and time and time again. Okay, one of the quickest and easiest ways to get rich working for the government is not actually from what you get paid to work for the government, but it's the connections that you make within the government, and then you use those connections, you leverage those connections to then enrich yourself when you leave the government, and then you go and you work for this nonprofit, right? You're supposed to be doing good for the world, okay? You're a charity, but yet you're using your connections with the government in order to score these fat government contracts to do things that are not beneficial towards the American people, okay? Like, this is just one example, but we've talked about this so much in regards to what's happening out in Chicago, okay? When you talk about the illegal immigration crisis, okay, in Chicago being a sanctuary city, well, what's happening out there in Chicago? Well, all of the liberal nonprofits, again, all of these nonprofits run by liberals, okay, they get rich off the back of taxpayers because Brandon Johnson says, hey, the illegal immigrants can stay here and we have to take care of the illegal immigrants. So they spend hundreds of millions of dollars. They funnel the money to the nonprofits to then service the illegal immigrants. Those nonprofits eventually give kickbacks and other benefits to the politicians who awarded them the contracts, the money to take care of the illegal immigrants. And that's how the game works. Okay. The losers are the taxpayers. The winners are the politicians and the liberal nonprofits. Okay. Look at what happened out there in California. $20+ billion spent on fighting homelessness, and they didn't get anybody off the streets. In fact, homelessness increased. Well, why is that? It's because they just funneled a bunch of money, billions of dollars, in the name of fighting homelessness to liberal nonprofits, who then turn around and they wasted the money. They didn't actually do anything to combat homelessness, right? That is what we're dealing with here, guys. That is the massive scam, the waste, fraud, and abuse that is present throughout our government. That, again, the liberal media, they don't want to talk about. They don't want to cover stories like this. And then they wonder why nobody's watching their shows, right? Nobody's watching their shows. This story, okay, when a local San Antonio news outlet covered this story, it got millions of views. Millions of views. Well, why is that? It's because this is the type of stuff that the American people want to know about, right? This is what we care about. This is the type of corruption that we want to be uncovered, that the American people can see this is what's happening with our tax dollars, right? This is what we want. But see, CNN and MSNBC, they're more focused on hating Trump, hating Elon Musk, rather than focusing on the real issues that the American people want to know about. And again, you wonder why their ratings are declining, why nobody is watching their networks, because they're not real news. Okay, they're just anti-Trump propaganda. But this right here is real news. This stuff right here, people want to know about. This scam is so prevalent, and this is why I'm very skeptical of nonprofits, especially liberal-run nonprofits, right? I am very, very, very careful about how I donate money because a lot of these nonprofits are just scams, right? They're just people who claim that they're trying to help the world, okay? But yet they're just trying to get rich, right? Except they have to beg people for money instead of actually starting a real business, providing a real good or service to society like normal businesses, right? So, you know, I mean, that's essentially what's going on here, right? As you can see, the Biden transition team member went to the nonprofit, and then all of a sudden, the government started giving more money to this nonprofit. Again, it's not a coincidence. This is something that is happening because of corruption.
Since March 2024, HHS paid $18 million a month to keep the Pecos facility open despite it sitting empty. With occupancy below 20%, HHS was able to terminate the contract, saving taxpayers $215 million annually. An investigation by the Free Press found 99.6% of Endeavor's revenue comes from government contracts, with 2 of its government contracts, one from DHHS and another from ICE in 2021, leading to congressional scrutiny and investigations.
Yeah, so I want you guys to understand the incentive structure here, right? Again, especially in relation to the border crisis. When you have these liberal nonprofits who exist in order to house illegal immigrants, right? Well, what does that incentivize these liberal nonprofits to do in regards to who they support politically? Well, they're going to support a party. They're going to support politicians that want open borders. Well, why are they going to do that? Well, because open borders and more illegals coming into the country means more business for them, right? Because now there's a need to house the illegal immigrants. So they get paid, right? It becomes justified to pay them in order to do this job because we have this problem. See, and that's, again, part of the reason why Democrats and liberals and progressives love illegal immigration, because it gives a incentive for the government to hand out all this money to nonprofits to take care of the illegal immigrants, right? So they can say that they're doing good for the world. And they go out here and they brag about how they're taking care of the illegal immigrants, and all these poor people from South America, these poor countries are coming to America, and we're feeding them and we're giving them better lives. Yeah, they feel good about themselves, right? That's what they do. This is how liberals operate, okay? They feel good about themselves when they do stuff like this, but they're, again, creating a problem in order to get rich. Ultimately, they're trying to get rich, okay? This is also part of the reason why these people project so much when it comes to taxing the rich and hating billionaires, is because they're upset, not because billionaires exist, but because they're not billionaires, right? Because they're not rich, right? So again, they don't have real skills in which they can, on the free market and in the private sector, make a living an honest way, like a truly honest way. They can't do that, right? So again, what they do is that they create problems. They advocate to create problems and then turn around and to position themselves as a solution to the problem, right? Let's have open borders. Oh, now all of a sudden we got to house all these illegals. Oh, wait, come pay me in order to house the illegals. Government, please give me your money to do that. Again, what type of incentive structure does that create? Okay, it creates an incentive structure for them to then funnel money back to the politicians so that they can then continue to create the crisis and then give money back to the nonprofits. And that is what's going on here. 100%. 100%.
One was worth $87 million. Another was worth $529 million, which at the time of the award was 12 times Endeavor's annual budget, according to the House Oversight Committee. Both were awarded as sole source contracts, meaning it wasn't open for bidding. It was given to Endeavors without competition from other contractors, months after a former Biden official started working with the nonprofit as a senior director for migrant services. The House Oversight Committee wrote, the size of the contracts awarded to family Endeavors, the manner in which they were awarded, that firm's lack of equivalent experience, the timing of Mr. Lorenzen Straight's hiring and his connections to the Biden administration combined to raise serious concerns of potential impropriety. The Department of Homeland Security's Inspector General investigated the allegations, writing in its findings, ICE did not adequately justify the need for the sole source contract to house migrant families and spent approximately $17 million for hotel space and services at 6 hotels that went largely unused between April and June 2021. ICE's sole source contract with Endeavors resulted in millions of dollars being spent on unused hotel space. Government contracts must be awarded through an open competitive process, as outlined in the Federal Acquisition Regulation. ICE records showed that Endeavors had no experience providing the services covered by the sole source contract, including hotel beds or all-inclusive emergency family residential services. In response to the Inspector General's report, ICE said there was an unusual and compelling urgency for the Endeavors contract due to an increase in irregular migrant flows at the border.
Ding, 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 ding. Exactly what I was telling you guys. Again, what type of incentive structure does this create? This is how the game works. Create a problem. Oh, the borders are open, right? Create a problem. Illegals are coming in. We have to house them and take care of them, right? Instead of deport them, right? We have to house them and take care of them. We're good people, okay? While also at the same time, the government is funneling them millions and millions and millions of dollars in contracts that they otherwise would not do or wouldn't be justified, okay, if it wasn't for the illegal immigration crisis. Now, again, notice the things they cry about the most, the things they're loudest about, again, that is where the money laundering and the corruption comes in. DEI. Why are they crying about DEI? Well, DEI is supposed to stop racism within the workplace because white people so evil, they so bad. Black people need opportunities. But see, the reality is that a vast majority of normal, regular working black people in this country do not benefit from DEI, and they don't even need DEI, right? But the people who do benefit are the black bourgeoisie, okay, the black liberals who get these government contracts, these corporate contracts to come into these workplaces and to tell the employees that, hey, you're racist, right? You're racist. And what they do is that they actually spread more racism. They create more racism. And then they go back and they say, see, look, your company is very racist. It's extremely racist. You need more of our services, right? Again, just think about the incentive structure behind it. This is why a vast majority of these DI pimps are racist as hell. They're the most racist people on earth, especially towards whites. Well, why is that? It's because creating more racism creates a need, or at least a perceived need, for more DEI. There's no real incentive to stop racism amongst the DEI consultants because that would kill their industry, right? And again, that's what they're boohoo whining crying about the most, is the money drying up, okay?
ICE used this exception to bypass the regulation that requires a competitive bid for government contracts. While past government contracts with endeavors were scrutinized under the Biden administration, the Trump administration is canceling some of their contracts altogether, according to DOGE. Homeland Security reposted DOGE asking U.S. Attorney Ed Martin to investigate, to which he responded, duly noted, we are on it. Family Endeavors has not responded to media comment as of this recording. Thanks for watching our news update.
Yeah. So what you have here is the Biden administration saying, hey, yeah, we know that this is a conflict of interest, that this is a problem, but we're not really going to do anything meaningful about it. The Trump administration comes in, DOGE comes in and says, hey, yeah, we know that this is a problem. We're actually going to do something about it, right? That's the difference. And again, this is why CNN, MSNBC, all these news outlets, this is why they don't want to cover real news. This is why they only want to smear DOGE as a negative thing, right? They only want to talk about the potential negatives, okay? And they don't want to talk about the positive. They don't want to talk about this, okay? Which is our taxpayer dollars being misused, laundered really, to benefit liberals and Democrats and their friends with these fake nonprofits that are set up to take in government money in response to the chaos and destruction that they advocate for, right? These liberals advocate for chaos and destruction. They turn around and they set up these nonprofits in order to benefit from government money to fix and to remedy the chaos and destruction that they support. That is the game, folks. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.